What is up, everyone? Welcome to another edition of the Superdraft Breakdown Show here on RotoGrinders. I'm Turd Ferguson. I'm bringing you some of my favorite plays over on Superdraft. If you haven't signed up for it yet, making bad life choices, sign up using promo code GRINDERS. Get a free 150 or 100% deposit bonus. If you deposit $150 or more, you get 150. Boom. Free money there. If you deposit less than that, they will match it up to $50. So download or deposit $40. Boom, you get $40 in Superdraft cash. Download $50. Boom, you get $50 in Superdraft cash. You pretty much get matched up to $50, or if you do 150 or more in deposit, you get 150. It's free money. Play through it once. There's no drip. There's no deposit bonus. It's just straight up cash to use in contests. Play through it once, and it's yours. That simple. But if you guys haven't played on there, again, probably making bad life choices. They have tons of overlay there. The lowest rake in the industry because there's reverse rake, and I'm going to be teaching you everything there is about the site. It's pretty much a non-salary cap format site because it's just multiplier. So whatever your player gets, multiply it by the multipliers, and boom, you got it. And Bean gets 50 points. He's at a 1.1x multiplier. Boom, he gets 55 points. Pretty much the same scoring as FanDuel and DraftKings combined. DraftKings, it's the same with 3-pointers with the 3.5 bonus. Assists, rebounds, double-doubles, triple-doubles, but steals, blocks, turnovers, same as FanDuel. So a little bit of a mix there. I'm going to be breaking everything down, and we already got a question here in chat. Guys, if you got any questions, go ahead and drop it into chat. It's that simple. I'll get to it. I'll be looking at it throughout the show. But how many high multipliers do you usually take in tournaments? Depends. Every single day is different, like a lot of days. So let's just look at today. How many high multipliers are actually in play for tournaments? So if you look at over my screen right now, I have a spreadsheet pulled up. This is just RG's projections over on this screen. How many high multipliers do I take today? Well, it depends on what you call high, but I'm guessing over 1.5. So Terrence Ross, definitely a guy if he ends up playing. High multiplier, very much in play. Colin Sexton, 1.55x, high multiplier. He's in play. Derek White, without DeRozan, he's in play. Porter in play. So there's 5 guys rather than that. Sterling Brown, MCW. Like, it all depends on the lineup. McConnell, Schroeder, Keldon Johnson, Rudy Gay. It all depends on the lineup. It all depends on the situation. It all depends on what is going on today's slate. So very simple on today's slate. Embiid is pretty much a lock and load. Vooch is a fantastic play because of all the injuries and because of the matchup versus San Antonio. Westbrook is above everyone else. Mitchell is very much a guy that's in play. But there are certain situations where you can get multiple guys on one team at high multipliers because we have San Antonio here. So we have DeRozan is out and LMA is out. So everyone on the entire team, we can pull up San Antonio right now, is at virtually a high multiplier. The lowest one is DeJounte Murray at 1.4. But after that, you got White, you got Gay, you got Keldon Johnson, you got Pirtle, you got Patty Mills, you got Lonnie Walker. A few of these guys are going to get there. So essentially every single guy in tournaments that you're looking for, you want 60 or more out of. Like, you can get away with a 50, but generally you want 60 or more. If you have a 50 in your lineup, you probably need a lower owned guy. So you want 60 or more from every single player. So how many of these guys can realistically, at their multiplier, get over 60? For Derek White, he needs to get, 35 to get 60? 36? Same thing with Gay, same thing with Johnson, same thing with Pirtle. So just looking at this lineup, how many guys can get to that 60 mark? And if so, how many guys can get that at 60 mark if DeJounte Murray gets it, if you're going to throw him in that? So if Murray gets 43, 44, he's at that 60-point mark. How many guys can end up getting there? And I would say 2. I could see White, DeJounte Murray, and Johnson. But if I'm doing that, then if all of them are getting there, it probably means it's a high-scoring game. Probably means it's a close game. Bring it back on Orlando with Vooch or with Terrence Ross. So realistically, if you're game stacking Orlando and San Antonio today, you can use 3 high multiplier guys in Keldon Johnson, Derek White, and then Ross over on the other side. So it depends. It's very different every single day on every single slate. Like, you don't know exactly how many high multiplier guys are going to be because sometimes they're just mispricing. There was a week or a month or however long it was where Cantor was at 1.8x every single day. So was Plumlee. Jeremy Grant was at 1.6x. He was pretty much a lock and load every single day. So I'd have multiple guys in there. There can be an injury last second. So the day that Plumlee was ruled out, Stewart was a 2x multiplier, and there was a day where almost everyone on San Antonio got COVID, and boom, we had all guys in the lineup that were at 1.8x multipliers. When Derrick Rose was ruled out and a few other guys were ruled out for New York, and they're going up against Detroit without DeLon Wright and Jeremy Grant, I stacked up that game with 4 high multiplier guys. They end up hitting. So it's very different every single day. You shouldn't keep any single strategy like, oh, you need to play high multiplier guys. A lot of days, the best guys are low multipliers. Today, the lowest multiplier guard is Westbrook, and he's the top projected guard on the entire slate because he's at 1.2x. Going against Philly, obviously, Embiid likely coming back, but they're still without Simmons, so they're not the same team defensively that they normally are. But that's just kind of where you're at with multipliers. Great question, Garth. But let's go ahead and get to the breakdown here. On Superdraft, you get 3 guards, 3 forwards, 1 center. So we'll start off with center here. And the clear guy for cash, if you see the guys marked in blue and guys marked in green, blue is more my cash game core. Green is guys that are more my tournament core, although there's more guys that are in play than just that. These are just the main ones that I marked before the show as of this time of day. Obviously, things change throughout. Luka got ruled out last night. Brunson immediately became a good play because he was a 1.8x multiplier. Josh Richardson was a good play at a 1.7x multiplier. So occasionally, anytime you see a big star ruled out, that's when you kind of go towards a more high multiplier lineup. But if all the stars are playing any given day, or they haven't adjusted like they did with Tobias Harris, went from a 1.4x multiplier down to a 1.15x multiplier, and Embiid plays, Tobias Harris is not even worth consideration. If Embiid doesn't play, I still don't think I'm using Tobias Harris. So today we got Embiid, the clear top play, but we can throw him in at center because dual position eligibility. So Vooch is the guy. He's at 1.25x multiplier. Guys getting all the usage, especially if Fournier and Ross are out. San Antonio, not the same defensive team without half their guys in there, not the same offensive team. Going to be a decently high-scoring game. Both teams are decimated, so we know exactly where the usage is going over on Orlando. So Vooch is the guy that you're probably going with in cash. You can throw Embiid at the center position in tournaments, but I probably wouldn't suggest it in cash. I'm pretty much locking in Vooch in cash, and there's almost nothing that could really happen that could change it. Obviously, there is something that could end up happening. Who knows what it is, but more than likely, Vooch is the guy that you're going to be using in cash for Super Draft. After that, Joker's not a bad one. He's a guy that you can pivot off in tournaments. He is a low multiplier, so I'm probably a little hesitant to play him. But he is a guy that can go for 70 points. That should go for 60 points. So he's definitely a guy that's in play for tournaments. Sabonis, more of a guy I'm looking at forward. Hasn't been playing great recently. Someone's asking Embiid, like 45% usage. How do you fade? You could assume the game's going to turn into a blowout. Embiid could get injured. Any number of things could happen. Like Embiid, I don't want to fade at all. I might end up with 100%, but at this level multiplier, I don't think I will. If he ends up with 50, there's multiple other guys that can end up with 80. So I'm not going to use him in every lineup. I'll probably, any lineup where I end up using him, use either Beal or Westbrook, and it's just that simple. You correlate because in the case of a blowout, like let's say that Philadelphia is up by 15, 20, 25 points at halftime. Don't think that Embiid's going to get full run in the second half. So there's a chance that he only ends up with 40 points. If he ends up with 40 points, which is what his floor outcome here is 48 points, which will kill you. So 20% of the time he's going to end up with 48 or less points. It can absolutely happen. It's very, very possible. Everyone assumes that it's not going to happen, but Embiid's going to come in at 65% ownership today over on Super Draft. It's what happens. Like, it's what happens with these multiplier systems. It's too tough to get guys unless you make the multiplier 2.5, in which case there's going to be certain situations like Kevin Porter Jr., who's going to end up being the super chalk if he was at like a 2.3x multiplier. But like it's like salary cap format. You have guys that are going to be uber chalky. I'm assuming Kevin Porter is going to be super chalky tonight over on DraftKings because it's 3.2K, because we didn't realize his role. We didn't realize the injuries and how much he ended up playing last night and how he ended up doing, how he's done in G League. He's coming in and he's going to do very, very well with Houston. They'll use him in that and they want to see what he can do. I can't remember what his contract is, but they should have him for a little bit. So they want to see what he can do. So they're going to give him some run. Plus they're not in any situation where they really want to win. So, yeah. But Embiid, Vooch, two guys you're looking at for cash tournaments. Joker is in play. Gobert going up against Houston. Obviously, they don't have a great center situation. Gobert is a 1.3x multiplier. He can crush. Valanciunas maybe gets some extended run, 1.45x multiplier. We know that the guy can put up 60 points in any given matchup. The guy can absolutely crush if he gets the minutes. He's just a point per minute beast occasionally and puts up a massive outing. Match versus Denver is not bad. They could cut down on his minutes because I don't know how well he matches up versus Joker, but they could end up with him in the game even more. Jared Allen, not a guy that I want to go with Love potentially coming back, with Nance back in the lineup. I think he might get his minutes eaten into a little bit. They're not going to run out for 35 plus minutes any given night, I don't think. So 1.35x multiplier, too low. Miles Turner's fine. Not a guy I really want to use, but he's fine. Harrell is a guy that can crush on a point per minute basis, 1.6x multiplier. He's a high multiplier guy I would consider. Same thing with Pirtle. 1.65x multiplier. He can crush. Like, he can play 35 minutes and he can put up 45 points. If he puts up 45 points, then he ends up with a massive outing and one of the best on the entire day. So he's in play for tournaments. But I wouldn't be surprised if I just locked in Vooch and made my lineup construction real easy. Kelly O, they gave his multiplier downgrade. He was at 1.65 yesterday. Now he's down to 1.4 because of the Bam injury. He's kind of out of consideration for me. Can he get there? Yes. Will he get there? Probably not. Markkanen, Carter Jr., both guys not going to play a ton of minutes. Like, Markkanen's cutting into Carter Jr.'s minutes, and Markkanen's on a minutes cap. So both of these guys kind of out of consideration. Nance, don't know how many minutes he's going to play. Love, don't know how many minutes he's going to play. Wagner, not going to play a ton of minutes. So center is pretty cut and dry if we consider that Embiid's going to play, which I can't remember if they've already got the test to him, but more than likely he's not going to test positive. So I'm under the assumption that Embiid will play today. So center, pretty cut and dry. Go Vooch. If you're not playing Vooch, play Embiid at the center or play Sabonis at the center. If you want, you can play Joker, Gobert, or Valanciunas in tournaments. But cash, it's very clearly Vooch. Let me see. Miles Turner is interesting to me. Can you comment on that, please? So that's an interesting one. Like, he's interesting on most slates because he can get a bunch of blocks. He can get a bunch of steals. Blocks and steals are worth 3 points over on Superdrafts. So every single steal is essentially worth 4.65 points for Miles Turner. So a stat correction can literally be a 10-point swing for you. Because that Turner definitely is in play for tournaments. He's not my favorite. He's not a guy I really want to go with because the multipliers are kind of loose today. Sabonis, a guy that we've seen at 1.05x multipliers at 1.25x. Vooch should be close to a 1. Embiid should be close to a 1. So, yes, you can play all three of those guys in the same lineup, but it's just the multipliers are too – there's not much of a disparity between Turner and Valanciunas, Turner and Gobert, Turner and Vooch, and Turner and Sabonis. So I'd use Turner if I'm kind of stacking up the Lakers game. I can throw in Brogdon is not a bad guy today. Sabonis is a good guy. Turner is a good guy. Bring it back with LeBron and Schroeder. Hope that the game goes to overtime. Yes, I know the Lakers are bad at defending center position, but Turner, I expect Sabonis to get more of the usage. Oh, shoot. Dean, get out of here. I don't want you in here, Dean. Hi, Dean. Yeah, so that's basically the center position. It's pretty cut and dry. Forward's a little bit more interesting. So Embiid, like I said, lock and load for cash. Butler, getting triple doubles lately, putting up massive outings, consistent, good match versus Chicago. I know he's on the second back-to-back, but good match versus Chicago, 6th in the league in terms of pace, middle of the pack, slightly worse than average in terms of defensive efficiency. No Bam in there, so Butler's going to get it done. Like, Butler is going to be someone I'm going to be 60% on in tournaments, probably lock in cash. Let's see. Dean's got a question. QQ. What discounted fast food item do you miss the most? Oh, gosh. What was it? Double soft taco. It was Taco Bell. It was a soft taco with just beef, cheese, and lettuce in it. Then wrapped in another soft taco with cheese in between, nacho cheese in between. So it was essentially the cheesy gordita crunch, not crunchy, before the cheesy gordita crunch. I used to have a little thing in high school that I bought from I don't know, some local random high school team trying to get money to go to stat. I don't know what it was, but in any case, I had buy one, get one free taco on there. So me being the healthy individual I was at 17 years old, on his way into school, would go get a buy one, get one free double soft taco I get two of them for $1.38. And that was my breakfast. I was very healthy. I'm surprised that I'm still alive, but that's beside the point. Back to four. Oh, what isn't the answer always McRib? That's not really a discount food item. It's one of the best food items out there. One of my favorite McDonald's things, but not really discounted. But for cash, Terrence Ross is in play. Like, we see his median projection, but we know this floor is significantly lower. So Sabonis, a guy that's always getting you at least 40 points, so won't kill you, with upside at legit 70 points. He's the guy I'm going with in cash. Butler, getting you a minimum of 40 points likely. 1.2x multiplier. These are the three guys you're going with at cash right now. Like Terrence Ross, I'm not going to argue with it. LeBron, I would not argue with it. Kevin Porter Jr., probably not safe for cash. Discontinued. Dean said discontinued. Gosh, I can't read. In any case, Ford, like, all these guys are fine for cash, but they're not in the same league. Like, Embiid's a lock and load. Butler, Sabonis are both guys that you want to have in there. But for tournaments, we definitely have more guys that we can look at. LeBron can go for a 70-point game. Multiplier is a little bit low, so I don't know if I'll end up with too much of him. Ingram, 1.35x multiplier. He can go for a 45, 50-point game. But it's a little bit tough to end up using him. Levine, 1.25x. And I know he's on the second of a back-to-back. He played 31 minutes, I think, last night, so he should be in for full workload today. The game was a blowout, so they didn't really give him a ton of run. He gave him about 4 or 5 minutes in the fourth, so he should be a little bit fresh today. He can crush here. Zion, 1.2x multiplier. I really like him for tournaments. He's been putting up pretty consistently 48 to 52 fantasy points on any given night. Has upside for 60 in any given night. He's at 1.2x multiplier. I don't think he's going to garner a ton of ownership. Match versus Cleveland, they've been up and down defensively, more down than up. And I don't know how much it'll change with both Love and Nance coming back, but overall, still pretty decent matchup for him. So he's a guy that I think you can use in tournaments and can definitely, yeah, I know Levine sucked last night, Eric. I had a lot of them and he crushed my hopes and dreams. The Houston situation is a little bit interesting. So I think Gordon's already been ruled out. We haven't gotten the injury report, but I'm guessing it's going to be likely that either Oladipo or Wall is ruled out. Or potentially both, but more likely it's going to be Wall playing, Oladipo out. With Gordon out, we're going to see Sterling Brown, we're going to see McLemore, or we're going to see Porter. One of those guys end up with an extended amount of run tonight. More likely it's going to be Kevin Porter Jr. He might be chalky is the problem, but you can always pivot because I think it's one of the later games. But Kevin Porter Jr. is at 1.75x multiplier. Sterling Brown's at 1.95x. It's against Utah. It's a tough matchup. There's a chance that all of them end up sucking. But they're all in play for tournaments. So any of those Houston guys you can end up going with. Tobias Harris, way too low of a multiplier. Don't use him. Even if Embiid's ruled out, I probably wouldn't use him. Gay and Keldon Johnson. Already kind of talked about Sacramento a little bit. Real big fan of Keldon Johnson. If we hear that he's not going to be on a limit or minutes limit, which I'd be a little bit more surprised if he wasn't on a minutes limit than if he was. But him or Gay, someone on San Antonio is going to crush. So I'm going to try and probably use at least one San Antonio guy in every single lineup. I'm going to have a lot of DeJounte Murray, who's too high of a multiplier, 1.4, considering DeRozan and Elme are out. But this is Pop. This is the Spurs. Any given night, DeJounte Murray can do terrible. We had that two game stretch for Murray where one, he ended up with close to 10 steals, had an absolutely monster night. And then the next night, he just did terrible, just did absolutely horrible. Like, San Antonio players are not consistent. So at high ownership, you can make the argument for fading Murray, especially for a guy like Ja Morant or Oladipo. But I think that one of the San Antonio guys is going to go off and be in the winning lineup. So I'm just trying to figure out who it is. I'm going to kind of sort stuff around. But outside of that, at forward, I think Michael Porter is definitely a guy that you can end up using. 1.55x multiplier. He's been a little bit off and on. It's either 28 or 48 points pretty much every single given night. If he gets hot shooting, if he gets a double-double bonus, he can crush. Matchup versus Memphis is not bad. They're a little bit more, Denver's a little bit more healthy right now and has a little bit more bodies. So he could see a little bit less of an extended run. But 1.55x multiplier, definitely a guy that's in play for tournaments. Definitely a guy that's in play for tournaments tonight. Shake Milton, Seth Curry. Last night, obviously Embiid wasn't there, but last night I thought Shake Milton was going to get the start. He didn't get the start. I can't remember who they threw out there, but Seth Curry then became my pivot over from Shake Milton. Ended up doing all right. The game was a blowout, so he didn't get run to force. So Shake Milton almost ended up getting the same amount of points as him, but he's a guy that I think if he gets a start, it's a matchup versus Washington. He could see extended run in a blowout. So he's a guy that I don't think they'll give him the start, but it's something to watch out for. It's the first game of the night, so we'll know early on. But he could be a guy to pivot off of from Seth Curry, who I think will draw still a decent amount of ownership, even with Embiid coming back. After that, not really much to look at here for forward. Like Lonnie Walker, like I said, he could be a guy, him or Patty Mills or pretty much anyone who knows with Pop, that check to see what the starting lineup is. It could end up happening. Someone's mentioning Jazz minus 17. I think everyone is out for the Rockets. If everyone was healthy for the Rockets, I could still see Jazz being minus 17. Like it's likely going to be a blowout. Jazz have been absolutely incredible so far this year. They've been incredible for the last month. They've been blowing out everyone, good or bad team. And Houston's not a good team, and Houston doesn't match up well. And Houston just really doesn't care. So it becomes a little bit tough. Like, it's the NBA. You don't really want to project blowouts, but that's a likely blowout spot. Yeah. Zion last night, no 45 burger for him. No, he was at 20, 7 minutes into the first quarter, and then he just did terrible, and the game blew out. I don't know what happened, but he might go a little bit under-owned tonight on Superdraft, considering he probably killed a lot of people's lineup. What about PJ Tucker? PJ Tucker's not playing. I'm pretty sure he got bought out, or they're in the process of buying out. So I think I remember them saying that last night. Guard is a lot more interesting today than any other position. Forward, there are some clear-cut guys, but guard, as you can see, I have a lot of people highlighted. So some of them are multi-position eligible. Ross, Porter, Levine. I'm going to play him more at forward because there's just not a ton of different forwards to play. Guards, there's tons. So Westbrook, the clear top option. 1.2x multiplier, should crush. Mitchell, I currently have down as my cash game guy, second guy. But that could end up changing again. I'm worried about the blowout. We'll see who ends up playing. But I could potentially go swap over to DeJounte Murray or Ja Morant are the two likely options I'll go with. Morant has been playing fantastic lately. Every single game that ends up close, he ends up with 48 points. You look at his game log over the last 8 games, and it's super interesting to see because you'll see him randomly put up a dud, and it's because the game was a blowout. They went on a 6-game stretch where 5 of the games were blowouts, and so he didn't get full run. The last 2, he's got an extended run, and he's, I think, put up 48 and 52 points. Morant's my favorite tournament play and maybe a guy that I'll look at. But as of right now, it's Westbrook, Mitchell, and Beal. But I don't like using 2 guys from the same team, so Westbrook and Beal might be a little tough to throw both of them in there. Still probably do it. But Mitchell, I'm probably going to end up swapping over to DeJounte Murray or Ja Morant. I think those are the 2 guys. They're both higher multipliers, both in great situations. Denver obviously has gotten better defensively, but they're still not a great defensive team. 1.4x is far too high of a multiplier. DeJounte Murray without DeRozan in there and without LMA, we know he's going to get a huge workload. I am a little bit worried about how much playing time we get. If you guys want, best part about Superdraft is you can do direct 1v1 swaps. So if you want to create 2 cash game lineups, it's not that tough. It's not like DraftKings where you have to do multiple different things. Like center's super easy in cash. Forward's pretty easy. It's Embiid, it's Sabonis, and it's Butler. But guard is definitely a little bit more interesting. So if you're not a person with a huge bankroll, you don't want a ton of volatility, you can create 3 different cash game lineups using 6 different guards. Like you can use Westbrook, Mitchell, Beal, Morant, Murray, Ross, and interchange them throughout your entire lineup. So you can do multiple different what's it called, 50-50 lineups and head-to-head lineups, and get a little bit less volatility in there because it is just a direct 1v1 swap. And then in triple ups, if you want to go with a less high-owned guy, I think the chalk is going to be Westbrook, Beal, and probably Murray. You can go with Morant, and you have a better chance at cashing in a triple up if 2 people have the exact same lineup of Sabonis, Butler, Embiid, and Vooch. And then guards, they probably will have Westbrook, Beal, and my guess is Murray, maybe Mitchell, but most likely Murray, depending on where the projection systems land at towards the end of the night. But then you can just swap over to a guy like Morant, a guy like Levine, a guy like Brogdon at 1.4x multiplier, who is, if the game stays close, like Lakers are not the same defensive team without the guys that they currently have out, without Anthony Davis and without Gasol. And so Brogdon, game could stay close. He can go off for a massive game. He can get hot shooting. So he's a guy that you could swap over to on like the 10-man tournaments or triple ups, anything like that. Like the best advantage you have on slates where you're going to be super chalky over on Superdraft is making just slight differences in lineups, taking the guys that are almost impossible to fail, like Embiid, Vooch, and Sabonis, and Westbrook, and pivoting over on a guy that might not succeed, but still going to draw super high ownership in Beal and Mitchell and DeJounte Murray. Other guys that you can look at the forward position, Derek White, I already talked about it a little bit. He could go off for a big night. He's at 1.7x multiplier. Levine, Garland, if he ends up playing, I don't think he's going to end up playing, but even if he does, Love being in there. If he ends up playing, Nance being in there, I think some of the usage is going to go down for these guys. And while Garland does have a 80th percentile outcome of 73 points, I don't think it's worth taking a shot on there. I think that the Cleveland lineup is going to be a little bit diluted. So we're talking about Westbrook as if Beal is out. No, I'm assuming Beal's in. Westbrook's pretty much a lock and load regardless. 1.2x is too high of a multiplier on this slate where it's a little bit too condensed in terms of the multiplier. The lowest multiplier guy, generally we have a guy like Lillard in there at 1.1. We have a guy like Luka in there at 1x. We have a guy like LeBron that's normally point guard eligible at 1x. So we have a weird slate where the lowest multiplier guy is Westbrook at the guard position, and he's at 1.2. So the difference between Westbrook and Murray isn't like a normal day where the difference between Murray and Luka is 0.4. Like it's way more condensed. So it's a slate where Westbrook multiplier is way too high and you probably need to use him. What's your favorite guy of dudes that let us down yesterday? Zion, Levine, other? I'm trying to think of who let me down a lot yesterday. Zion was the main guy. I think I had him in cash. Levine was another guy. I like both of them. I like Zion more than Levine. I can't remember who let us down yesterday. So I'm going to check it out here. I'm going to look at some of my lineups here over on the other screen that you can't see. Sorry, guys. But let's see. History, pulling up, enhance. It's there we go. Tobias Harris let us down yesterday. Definitely not using him. Seth Curry let us down a little bit, but again, if Embiid plays, I'm not really too interested in him. Brunson let us down a little bit yesterday, although he made up for it in the fourth. Cat let us down, but he's not playing today. The only two guys that are playing today that played yesterday that I'm really considering that let us down are going to be Zion and Levine. Like, if you want, you can use Ingram. He's definitely in play. But, yeah, it's Levine and Zion are both the two guys that I think might go under owned that have a chance at crushing. We'll keep scrolling down, looking at these guards. Brogdon, I think, obviously has a ton of upside, 1.4x multiplier. He's going to go under owned because people would rather go with Ja Morant and DeJounte Murray at the same multiplier. MCW, I think, is a guy, especially if Ross and Fournier get ruled out. He's at a 1.8x multiplier. He's got some upside. He takes on a little bit more of a usage role when both those guys are off the floor because they're obviously big shooters. So check to see what their status is today. We should begin the injury report in about 30 minutes. Lonzo Ball, always a chance at triple level, always a chance of huge upside, 1.5x multiplier. Guy that I don't like as much as Morant, as Murray, as Brogdon, but guy in the same range that's going to go pretty far under owned, and a guy that you can throw in with a little bit of a stack, throwing Ball, throwing Zion, throwing Sexton. Schroeder, 1.7x multiplier, big multiplier. Guy that could take up a ton of the usage. Indy not great defensively this year. Schroeder's definitely a guy in tournaments. McConnell, I don't expect a 10 steal game, but he can still put up 40 points. His multiplier is far too high. Guy I really like in tournaments. Cody White, guy that can put up 5, 6, 7, 8, whatever 3-pointers in a game. Not my favorite. Magic versus Miami isn't great, but he's a guy that you can definitely throw in game stack if you're throwing in Levine, if you're throwing in Butler on the other side, if you're throwing in Dragic, none, any one of the carousel of guards over there. Probably not playing Olynyk because, again, his multiplier is down to 1.4. But a guy you can throw in, and then after that, like Jamal Murray is fine. Dragic is fine. Curry, sneeze. Curry's fine. McLemore, like, could be in for some extended run depending on what guards we end up seeing for Houston. But that's pretty much the slate, guys. That's Super Draft today. Again, get signed up using the promo code Grinders. Get $150 deposit bonus. If you deposit $150 or more, that's Super Draft cash, not a drip status. So you just got to play through it once. They'll match your deposit up to $50 otherwise. So, yeah, get signed up for a Super Draft. It's my favorite site out there. It's what I play on most. I've been getting slaughtered lately, so I'm paying a lot of the rake that they aren't even charging us because there's overlay every night. But get signed up for there. It's the best possible place to make money in DFS right now. And I don't think many people will argue that. And we'll be running out the shows a few times a week. I think we got Monday, Wednesday, Friday next week. So get signed up, guys. It's been fun. Good luck on today's slate. I got to get packed up and go somewhere right after this, but I'm out of here. See you, kids.